Ms. Peters? I was telling them that you are city clerk. You know, the one about the equipment.
Well,
Work for the weather.
yes, love her. How many years did you work on the Hill? 7.5? Almost 8? Yeah. Good while. Long enough.
You missed me.
Oh, I bet you learned the ins and outs. Oh.
It's sure been interesting lately.
Yeah. The stories I could tell. I'm sure he's got some. Oh, I bet he's got some
Hey,
great
I got
stories.
something to tell you this week.
Yeah.
They were wild. I'm glad that you're back. I know you. You finna shoot.
Oh.
Hey, baby, if you hear this
I'll
girl,
just tell you what. All right. This is part of Lisa's renovation information.
But the only add-on to this is to these businesses.
Yeah, this is,
that's the only thing we're changing.
in the morning, I'm part of the wrong building. Vito.
All call me
They're
today.
gonna cut override. They're gonna cut override half. We are
Especially if I own it, I'm going to save it from There's a lack of common sense. There's never going to be any more.
What I'm going to go on, I'm going to go
Anyways,
no action. Well, I think what I'm going to do is go down through right here, and then yeah, we can do that. I've definitely got to get. I tell you what I think about. I'll go down through this. I got to do this over.
yeah.
So when I get through with that stuff,
Jobs.
bringing these debt risk programs.
Okay, we're good.
are we good to go?
Oh, we got, well, 1 minute till, but.
This that study is pretty good. Yeah, it's time for
Yes, sir. Every business needs to do it every so often. We do it every so often.
Are you all ready to get busy? Yes, sir. All right, get you out of here.
We're gonna let it rip there.
All right. Well, thank you. My fashion advisor took care of me. I have a room full. This regular meeting of the Board of Mayor and Aldermen for April the 19th, 2016 will come to order. We appreciate your attendance tonight. Looks like we have just about a full crowd. We've got 2 or 3 seats a little closer to the front. As some of you all are Methodists, they always come toward the front. The Baptists stay at the back. But any of you can sit in these seats tonight. So find you a seat if there are any more available. And I know I've got some police officers who've got to be sworn in just a moment. But first, let's have the Pledge of Allegiance. I'll ask you to stand. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Please be seated. All right, well, that's not bad. How do you want them to stand? If you'll just come this way and face me, please. It is after being mayor for a little over 21 years, now that's not all at one time, this is the first time I've gotten to do that. The city recorder or city clerk's usually done this swearing in, so we do miss our city recorder tonight, but I'm glad I get to perform this service because there's no group in the city that I'm any prouder of than I am our law enforcement officers. All right. If you will, this is going to be pretty easy. I'm going to do most of the talking, but you'll know where you're to speak your name here at the beginning.
Mayor?
Yes.
Pardon me, I think we have a fourth officer. Is there a fourth one?
We do, but that individual hasn't arrived yet.
I think he's here.
Is he here?
Stuck his head in.
It's not that older gentleman sitting at the back there, is it? Danny, how many years now? That's you I'm talking to, yeah. 42. I thought he's still a rookie, but he's done a pretty good job. He's got made assistant chief, so we're right proud of him. All right. The oath of office for this approved of the state of Tennessee for the city of Springfield. After you say "I" and then say your name. I. All right. Having been appointed as a police officer for the city of Springfield, Tennessee, do solemnly swear that I will support the Constitution of the United States and of the state of Tennessee, and the charter and ordinances of the city of Springfield, and that I will faithfully perform the duties of the office to which I have been appointed to the best of my skill and ability, so help me God. On my honor, I will never betray my badge, my integrity, my character, or the public trust. I will always have the courage to hold myself and others accountable for my actions, and I will always uphold the Constitution, my community, and the agency I serve. And if you will agree to that, will you please say, "I solemnly swear"?
I solemnly swear.
Thank you very much, and you are officially police officers of the city of Springfield, though I believe you've already done a little work already, but now it's official. And I want our members of our board to come down, and Paul, did you have something?
I think David also wanted to give a little bit of information on each officer.
All right, you do that, and then we're going to come down and shake hands.
I think that would be great. They're lined up in alphabetical order anyway, so this works out.
Is that so you remember their name?
Well, that helps. That helps. If you would maybe turn and take a look over here at the elected officials, I'm just going to tell you a little bit about each. On the end, you have Martha Moore. She is the winner of the prestigious legal award at the Police Academy. Associate's degree in criminal justice, married to a police officer in Clarksville. Very excited to have her on board. We've got high hopes for her. Next to her is Michael Peeler. Michael is a retired lieutenant colonel from the U.S. Army with a master's degree and bachelor's degree, president of his class and winner of the leadership award at the Academy. And as I recall, I think youth pastor at his church. We have Jordan Wagoner. Jordan comes to us from the U.S. Army. He's got a variety of recognitions, ribbons and medals, national defense, global war on terrorism, and some others. Michael West, here on the end, U.S. Army. He's got a variety of medals and recognition there. Afghanistan campaign medal with 2 campaign stars, a Purple Heart, combat action, parachutist, meritorious unit, and a variety of others. So we're very excited to have all 4 of these people on board. I think that they really represent the kind of professionalism and the kind of potential we're looking for in law enforcement. So, and I hope I did you, gentlemen and lady, justice with those comments.
Yes, sir. I think you did. What a wonderful group. Now, I'd like for you to turn around and face the audience, and we're all going to give you a big round of applause. Remain there. We're going to shake your hand.
And you folks are free for the evening.
Thank you, folks.
Chief, I got 2 airborne there.
Great hire.
All right, the next item on our agenda is the approval of the minutes from the regular meeting of this board held on March the 15th and a special meeting on February the 25th. What is your pleasure? Do I have a motion
So moved.
So move.
and a second?
I'm a second.
Any discussion? If you favor the approval of the minutes, will you please say aye?
Aye.
Opposed, no. So ordered. Now, we had a request for a spokesman from the Downtown Merchants Group to speak to us just for a moment to kind of lay out some concerns and some suggestions that they have, and that somehow did not get on our agenda. I'd like a motion that we add this to the agenda. No action is required tonight, but we want to put them on the agenda where the spokesperson can make that statement for the group. Is there a second to that, to adding it to the agenda?
Anyone I'll second it.
That's what it was.
Motion.
All right. Motion is on the floor that we add this to the agenda. It's been duly seconded. Any discussion? Beg pardon?
Who made the first?
I thought you did.
I'd be happy to make the first.
Okay.
Second.
And now you've got the second. All right. If you favor this, please vote aye when your name is called. If you oppose, vote no.
Snyder.
Aye.
Cornell.
Aye.
Gregg. Sneed. Charter.
Aye.
Head.
Yes.
Hubbard.
Aye.
Pass 7-0.
All right. And will the spokesperson of that group please come forward and give us your name? Come to the podium there. And we have the handout from the group, which represents quite a few merchants in downtown, more than a lot of people maybe thought we had. So will you please tell us your name?
I'm Mary Hester, and I own our Serenity Shop on the square. It's a health food store for people and pets. The reason that we called the meeting was we had met about a year ago. I met 3 years ago with y'all, then met again last year with y'all about the parking situation. Well, we have more retail spot people uptown, and we're having like real issues, like really issues with the parking now. It has been worse, I guess, since the courthouse, is doing their construction, but it's still an issue that never has really been resolved. And so we wanted to bring forth some suggestions to help. Personally, at my business, we have people saying that they can't find parking, so they're leaving. And it's one thing if we're young and we can walk, but it's another thing if it's an elderly person and they need to bring their groceries and stuff. And then we have the fabric shop who does a lot of classes, and women are taking their sewing machines and there's no parking. So we've done the studies ourselves to see about who is parking where and this and that, and it seems to be coming from, of course, the courthouse and the lawyers, people who own other businesses up there. Say if the lawyer has, if they might have employees, so they might take up 2 or 3 parking spots, but they'll save the parking spots in front of their spot for their people, and then they'll park in front of the retail places. So we wanted to see if we could come up with some suggestions, or it's like some, ways of handling this, and we wanted to. It was brought to our attention that maybe if y'all could rent, like if we could rent a couple spots in front of the shops, then that way it would bring money back into the city or into the downtown, like for our revitalization of our historical district. Or if we had like a parking lot that was designated just for court-appointed stuff. But we're here again. So this is year 3 with the parking situation, and we would really like to get it resolved because we have worked, and the momentum for businesses coming downtown has been really good. But I'm afraid, or not even afraid, but concerned that not everybody's going to hold on because they can't. There's not that many parking spots. And so I guess we're just asking if the city would lease us a couple of spots and we could manage our own spots in front of our businesses so that no one can park in front of our businesses so our customers can get to it. So we've been throwing out not just the issues, we're trying to come up with solutions because we know that the 2-hour parking thing is not enforced. We talked about that last time. And it's just can't be enforced unless we have just an officer who's going to, or a retired person who comes and marks things. But we need something that we need to implement it and not say, well, let's look at this because we've got good momentum. And it's such an issue that I'm telling you, I'm very concerned that some of the businesses can't make it up there. So, and we want everybody to be successful, but we need to be successful. And I'm sure that if anybody was trying to revitalize it, then if they owned a retail business, they would be looking after their business too. And so I guess I'm asking, can we lease a couple of spots in front of our businesses to solve this issue?
Ms. Esther, I think we can, of course, tonight, the purpose was to let you make this plea again and to bring us up to date. I knew personally that there'd been a whole lot more retail activity. When you talk to Burdett's, who've been here among the longest period of time of the downtown merchants, I was headed the chamber at the time. They located here, and the issue of parking, we had at one of the annual meetings of the chamber back 15 years ago, Sam Ramsey did a program, and his program was going back into the 40s and 50s and all of the issues that came before the chamber. And the number one issue, as far as retail was concerned, year after year, was parking. Of course, and that led to parking meters. Then the parking meters it was determined they weren't what was needed, so that was done away with. Then the city invested in all of the parking spaces that are behind Reliant Bank and down through there, and other parking lots have been added. But I realized that when we go to a mall, we park maybe 300 feet away and we don't mind walking in. But when we're on Main Street or around the square, we want to be closer. So it's a difficult situation to resolve, and it takes the cooperation of everybody. And one of the things that you pointed out, where somebody will park in front of somebody else's business all day long, one merchant will park in front of the other. That's gone on forever. But we would hope that with all that is going on, and I counted 24 businesses that you've listed there in downtown, and we've never seen it in recent years, anything like as strong as it is. And I appreciate what you all those of you who are downtown merchants are doing. It is helping our economy, and we do get a lot of accolades for the improvements that have been made in this area from people who come in from out of town, for the beauty of the downtown area and that type of thing. And we've added things to try to make this area more attractive, including making sure the library stayed in the town, or all of the streetscape work that's been done down Fifth Avenue, down Main Street, and the continuation of the Greenway, which we're investing in, which will be moving along before too many months. But I think what we're going to have to do is just have a session on this in which we consider various alternatives to the parking situation and see where we can go. Now, do you have any other concerns offhand other than is signage still an issue?
The signage last time y'all changed the signs on the courthouse within two weeks. The other signage, it's been a year. There's no signage for the free parking. We haven't got it. It's not done. So I don't know where we stand with that, because
The issue was, we were trying to get a symbol put on the signs that y'all presented, The chamber could never give us a format that could be used. The signs have been ordered and supposed to be in, but we could not put the symbol that you have.
Yeah, that's fine, but they have been ordered?
Yes.
So when do you think they will,
I couldn't answer you, but it should be in the next few weeks, yes,
okay.
before anything happens this spring.
Can we have a committee that's with, like a parking committee for the downtown area? Like, instead of like every 6 months, I come back and say, is there like a committee that could take over the parking issue, that we could come up with the solutions
I
and
think
see?
we're going to need to, after being notified for a month that this is going to be on the agenda, we need to have somebody ready that can discuss this and some alternatives out here and let you all be present to help with that discussion. We could do that at a noon meeting sometime, if that worked good for a lot of our merchants. And because we do, as you said, it's gone on. Some things have been worked on. Others could be added.
And we do have a merchants meeting every single month. It's always the Tuesday before Art Walk.
Okay.
And so we do have an art walk for everyone that lives in Springfield, outside of Springfield. We want to be part of a community. We want everyone to feel like they know people and that everyone is welcome. And so we open up our shops with appetizers and wine and local artists. So we like people that like to do jewelry or paint or whatever. If you know artists, please send them our way. And come, bring your families. It's a fun time. You meet people, you just meet new people that live in your town, and you develop friendships. And that's what the downtown historical area wants to be. It's part of a community like, well, when I grew up, I was part of a community. And we don't want it to be where you don't know your neighbor and no one talks to each other. We want it to be where everybody is a community and we can help each other and we rely upon each other. So this goes to everybody in this room. That's what we want.
Well,
and
the
we're
very
determined.
fact that you're here speaking tonight, and this will be played back in the next month for dozens of times, and I hope that word gets out. The downtown area is getting more publicity. You're getting some free publicity off of, not HGTV, but off of DIY, just off of that, the house flipping from Nashville, which featured Springfield in last Thursday night's edition. And that showed some nice shots, some Oak Street and Walnut and down through there. So all of that is helping. And the billboards that I've seen on 49 West and on 41 South that have been, some merchants are using, and I know those are very expensive, but nevertheless, that's been a good move. That's helped a lot. And also, on the front page of the Tennessean Sunday edition about 3 weeks ago was a story about our Greenway. And the story was done by our own Holly Fletcher, who is a native of Springfield High graduate, and has moved well up in the journalism ranks. And the picture that was on the front page of that, above the fold, was of Travis Price Park. And then it went on to talk about the Greenway that is in existence and all. So the city,
I agree
all
with
of
you.
that has been part of leading up to what you have as far as your, making the area more attractive and being something that will help draw people in.
But for the businesses, the retail businesses downtown, we have to address the parking issue because it won't keep. If you start losing 2 or 3 retail, no one's going to invest in coming down there because it's hard to make it down there unless we can come up with solutions. And that's why I'm here.
All right.
It's really to find, let's come up with some solutions. It's been long enough. Like
Well,
Sandy said, it's
we
been
will have
11
it on the
years.
agenda again. I think we can do it at the next meeting, and we'll see if we can't get a little more dialogue on that. It is not an easy issue to solve, as you know.
Right.
And, but we will have more discussion about it and try to reach a solution that can be mutually agreeable.
Okay, well, I appreciate it. And here are some brochures that we have
Thank you.
made for our downtown shopping area. If anyone has businesses that they would like brochures, I have them at my shop. I will be more than happy to give you anything we can get the word out that we do support small local businesses.
These
That
are
would be
beautiful.
appreciated.
Thank you very much. We appreciate your investment. All right, now we'll move on with our agenda. The legislative portion of the agenda is first, and your first item there, 2.1, is ordinance 16-03. This has been discussed for 2 meetings and is now ready for its third and final reading. This would amend certain rules and regulations in the TVA power contract and substitutes a new schedule of rules and regulations. Is there a motion?
So moved.
And a second?
Second.
Any discussion now? Please call the roll.
Hubbard.
Aye.
Sneed. Cornell.
Aye.
Trotter.
Aye.
Snyder. Head.
Yes.
Gregg. Pass 7-0.
All right, and now the 2.2 is also a third and final reading. This is relative to ordinance 16-04 and has to do with alcoholic beverage regulation. Is there a motion?
So moved.
A second?
Second.
Discussion now. Please call the roll.
Head.
Yes.
Cornell.
Aye.
Trotter.
Aye.
Snyder. Gregg. Hubbard.
Aye.
Sneed.
Aye.
Pass 7-0.
All right, now 2.3 is ordinance 16-05. This is also a third and final reading and would amend the current annual budget for the city's general fund budget. Is there a motion?
Move for approval.
Is there-
I'll take the second on it.
Who was first?
Who was number 1 on it?
Okay.
Jeff, you get, okay, and now Mr. Hubbard. Any discussion there? Please call the roll.
Trotter.
Aye.
Hubbard.
Aye.
Head.
Yes.
Snyder. Sneed.
Aye.
Gregg. Cornell.
Aye.
Pass 7-0.
And now, 2.4 is ordinance 16-06. It's a first reading, so our city clerk, Stephanie Peterson, will read this ordinance in its entirety.
Ordinance 1606, an ordinance amending the City of Springfield zoning ordinance regulating building sign design and installation within the corporate limits of Springfield, Tennessee, to provide consistent signage regulation to allow reasonable property and building identification, to facilitate the creation of an attractive and harmonious community, to protect property values, and to further economic development. Whereas the legislature of the state of Tennessee has in sections 137201 through 137210 Tennessee Code annotated, delegated the responsibility to local government units to adopt regulations designed to promote the public health, safety, and general welfare of its citizenry, the Springfield zoning ordinance defines the purpose of the city's comprehensive sign plan to create a uniform, easily understood, and very defined set of standards controlling all exterior signage to protect the general public health, safety, convenience, and welfare, and to reduce traffic hazards caused by unregulated signs which may distract, confuse, and impair the visibility of motorists and pedestrians. And whereas the 7 sign ordinance amendments included in Ordinance 1606 are to add definitions and incorporate building wall sign calculation methods using criteria based on structure, width, and square footage, and to delete provisions that include calculation methods based on structure wall area. And whereas the City of Springfield Planning Commission has reviewed these proposed ordinance amendments on April 7, 2016, and recommends their passage. Now therefore be it ordained by the Board of Mayor and Aldermen of Springfield, Tennessee as follows. Section 1, the City of Springfield Zoning Ordinance, Chapter 2, entitled General Provisions Relating to Zoning, Construction of Language, and Definitions, Section 11203, and Chapter 8, entitled Supplementary District Regulations, Section 11808, Sign Regulations for City of Springfield, is hereby amended by rescinding certain sections or paragraphs in their entirety and substituting new sections or paragraphs to read as set forth in Exhibit A attached. Section 2, in case of conflict between the ordinance or any part thereof and the whole or part of any existing or future ordinance of Springfield, Tennessee, the most restrictive regulation shall in all cases apply. Section 3, if any section, clause, provision, or portion of this ordinance shall be held to be invalid or constitutional by any court of competent jurisdiction, such holding shall not affect any other section, clause, provision, or portion of this ordinance in which is not of itself invalid or unconstitutional.
All right. Is there a motion this be considered?
Move for approval.
Is there a second?
Second.
All right. I'm going to ask our Community Development Director, Grant Green, if he will come forward and give us an overview of this proposed ordinance.
Thank you, Mayor. There's been some concern regarding how large some of the wall signs on commercial building fronts are in the city. We've had a few that have been permitted in the last year or so that have been a little bit larger than what normally you see. And after researching some other city regulations in Middle Tennessee, I found most cities calculate their wall signs based on the linear lengths of the building and that they have a maximum square footage. Our wall sign ordinance currently allows square footage based on the area of the wall, and it has no maximum square footage currently. I'm proposing an amendment similar to what Murfreesboro uses, and however, we went further and ensured that larger commercial and industrial buildings have a larger square footage allowance for their signage. Most structures will have a base allowance of 75 square feet for wall signage, but it can be allowed up to 125 square feet based on the width of the wall of the building. This will help ensure that the signage is more in scale with the size of the structure. Our Planning Commission reviewed this in March, and we made some changes based on their input that was helpful, and the recommendation was made at the April meeting. The first amendment that's in your packet adds definitions for anchor stores, big box stores, and major office and industrial structures. The Second Amendment better defines the determination of sign area and allows for up to 2 wall signs per structure, which is actually more, we've kind of determined that's more business friendly than most other cities, because most cities only allow 1 wall sign per structure. And if there's 2 wall signs that are allowed, it's typically just on corner lots. So allowing up to 2 wall signs per structure is much more business friendly, I think, than other cities in the area. Amendments 3 through 7 add the square footage allowance chart for each type of commercial and industrial situation that's included in our zoning ordinance.
All right, are there any questions now by board members?
If you're going to base on square footage, what do you need to designate the difference between an anchor and a big box store?
Well, what we've seen is kind of the anchor stores within shopping centers. They typically are almost a middle grade type of wall sign. They're more of somewhere between a normal size structure and a big box store like Lowe's or even Target. Target allows up to, their main wall signs are typically around 600 square feet. So having that allowance difference is kind of, I think it'd be helpful in making sure that we remain business friendly, and it gives that allowance that's, I actually reviewed some of the sign permits with Gina Head, who's our senior planner, and we had a permit come in for Burke's Outlet, and Burke's Outlet had, I think they requested 170 square feet of wall signage for their new sign. So obviously Burke's Outlet's not nearly as big as Walmart or a Lowe's, so we want to make sure that we give that allowance for them, and that it's not huge. It's more in size, in scale with the building, and that's really what we're trying to achieve here is that it gets the wall signs so that they're not just huge and the ordinance isn't exploited by someone that wants to put a huge wall sign in.
Are there other questions? Clay?
Usually when something's brought to our attention, it's because somebody brought it to your attention. It's been the policy for some time. What has brought about a need to change? Who's complaining? Who's wanting to do something different? What's bringing this to us today?
I've had a few citizens comment on it. A few of our staff members have commented on it. We've had just some signage that we think needs to kind of be. Well, actually, what I want to go back and say this is this.
Are we trying to make the law to accommodate something that's not compliant now?
Actually, this would only affect new permits, so anything that's permitted after this point would be affected by this. Any existing signage would be allowed to remain.
I've had some comments in recent months about some development there around Fifth and Memorial, recent that people did not like. They thought it was over the top.
Yes, sir.
I think you know what we're talking about.
Yes, sir.
So I hadn't made any complaint to them, but that complaint has come to me several times, more than anything I've heard in 2 or 3 years that people don't like. So maybe we want to try to remain business friendly, but we also got to, you're not wanting to go to the Brentwood style of having to look hard to find a sign, but you don't want it to be in your face either. So I think it sounds like you're trying to find a middle of the road approach to it.
Yes, sir.
Paul?
Yeah, of course, I'm Grant's boss, so I'm the one that question really needs to be directed to. You need just to look at the bottom of the hill. I mean, I have members of the board here. And said, how can we avoid this in the future?
Yeah.
I mean, there's someone who had no practical sense about what we're trying to do with our community. We've got a beautiful square, we've got things going on, and build something totally out of context to what's going on. Really, not even commonsensical. So unfortunately, you have to pass ordinances to keep people from doing things that are outlandish, and this is one of those cases. So we're going to have to go back to
It kind of makes the case for you why you've got to have some regulations.
Well, and Mr. Mayor,
Yes,
I've
ma'am.
had several business owners stop and ask me, was that in compliance? And can we change the ordinance? Along with citizens.
And I think some board members have asked, and we've talked to the planning commission, we need some design standards. If we had design standards already in place, maybe that would have stopped it too. So the signage is one thing, and now design standards have to be the second thing we have to look at. So I think really we've just had to retreat a little bit and look again at the ordinance, and I think this makes better sense.
I think it makes the case for the regulation.
Yeah, as a member of the planning commission, what you said, this is what we took into consideration, because we were, and y'all did a good job of researching everything, but we were just taking off our feet about this memorial sign. And so we're trying to bring a more uniform, a uniform code to the city, okay? And so you worked hard. We still got a little more work to do, but I think we're getting somewhere with the signs.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Are there any other items that need any other comments? Please call the roll, Ms. Stephanie.
Sneed. Cornell.
Aye.
Hubbard.
Aye.
Gregg. Head.
Yes.
Snyder. Charter.
Aye. Thank you,
Pass
Grant.
7-0.
2.5 is Resolution 1610, which would declare certain property as surplus and then authorize the disposal of such property. Do I have a motion?
Move for approval.
Second?
Second.
Any discussion? Please call the roll.
Cornell.
Aye.
Snyder. Hubbard.
Aye.
Charter.
Aye.
Sneed.
Aye.
Gregg.
Aye.
Head.
Yes.
Pass 7-0.
All right, 2.6 is another resolution, 1611, which would accept street and right-of-way improvements in the Legacy Subdivision, Section 5B. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second?
Second, get it on.
Discussion? Please call the roll.
Snyder. Cornell.
Aye.
Gregg.
Aye.
Sneed.
Aye.
Charter.
Aye.
Head.
Yes.
Hubbard.
Aye.
Pass 7-0.
All right, we move to 2.7. This is Resolution 1612. It would authorize the issuance, sale, and payments of up to $1,710,000 of capital outlay notes for the city and levying the ad valorem taxes for the payment of such notes. Do I hear a motion?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Discussion? Please call the roll.
Hubbard.
Aye.
Sneed.
Aye.
Cornell.
Aye.
Charter.
Aye.
Snyder. Head.
Yes.
Gregg.
Aye.
Pass 7-0.
All right, we move to the administrative portion of the agenda, and item 3.1 is to discuss and possibly act on the monthly adjustment of retail electric rates, which is caused by the monthly adjustment, wholesale fuel cost adjustment by TBA, which would affect our electric rates. And what do we, Mr. Gardner, what news do you have for us this time?
Going down 1.1%.
All right. Damn.
You're my buddy now.
For those of you in the audience who haven't been before, we have a running contest between the electric department and the gas department here as to who can be the most efficient and help us with these rates. Now, but on a serious note, most of this is outside their control. We were having to buy gas, we were having to buy electricity, and it's a commodity market, if you will, so we've got to deal with it. But it's an interesting dialogue anyway each month. So, all right, is there a motion that this be considered?
So move.
Second.
Discussion? Call the roll, please.
Head,
Yes.
Cornell,
Aye.
Trotter,
Aye.
Snyder,
Aye.
Gregg, Hubbard,
Aye.
Sneed.
Aye.
Pass 7-0.
And the similar motion of the adjustment of gas rates, Springfield Gas, Greg?
We're down slightly, 0.57%.
All right, down to 5. Robert, you got him this time, so we'll keep the contest going.
No contest.
That'll probably cost you next month, better watch. All right, do I have a motion on this now?
So moved.
And a second?
Second.
Discussion?
Yes, it's getting cheap, so keep it that way.
Okay, call the roll,
Well,
please.
it's bouncing around, so we'll see.
Yeah, it is at the gas pump too, so bouncing around. Call the roll, please, Steph.
Trotter,
Aye.
Hubbard,
Aye.
Head,
Yes.
Snyder,
Aye.
Sneed.
Aye.
Gregg. Cornell.
Aye.
Pass 7-0.
All right, 3.3 would be to discuss and possibly act to approve the amendment of the existing consultant services agreement contract with Alfred Benish and Company to include the design of bridge repairs for the Greenway Walking Bridge over Sulphur Fork Creek for an additional not-to-exceed amount of $17,500. Is there a motion?
So moved.
And a second?
Second.
Any discussion?
I'm the walker.
Please call the roll.
Sneed.
Aye.
Cornell.
Aye.
Hubbard.
Aye.
Gregg.
Aye.
Head.
Yes.
Snyder.
Aye.
Trotter.
Aye.
Pass 7-0.
All right, next would be a presentation by Mr. Steve Thompson from the Burris, Thompson and Associates, who have just conducted a classification and compensation study for our Human Services Department here. Steve, we welcome you and would like to hear briefly from you tonight. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. I'll try to be as brief as I can. You should have in your packet of materials the handout that covers mostly what I'm going to talk about. I'll just try to briefly summarize these, and there'll be an opportunity to ask questions at the end. Want to make sure you understand the context in which we conduct compensation studies. Usually the goal of the employer, in this case, the city of Springfield, is to be competitive in the labor market, to be fair in compensating employees fairly for the work that they perform, and that pay is administered consistently. I also like to point out that the pay plan, compensation plan, should be one of the tools that helps management get the work done, largely by helping ensure you get the right people with the right skills in the right jobs at the right time. And then, of course, affordability is often an objective too. You have to look out for the taxpayers as far as expenditures on compensation. So, a lot of what we do can be boiled down to two questions. First of all, we look at the City of Springfield's current pay structure, the guidelines in place for guiding pay administration, and compare that to the market, and then answer the question, what are we going to do about what we find? Secondly, we want to compare actual City of Springfield employees to market compensation for their jobs, and then what are we going to do about that when we find the answer to that question? The answer to the first question helps us answer the second, but a lot of this can be boiled down to those two things. Where is our pay structure relative to the market? Where are people relative to the market? And what are we going to do going forward? So just a few words about methodology. We had all the employees fill out job questionnaires to make sure we had current information, what job duties people were actually performing right now. We had job descriptions too, but the actual job questionnaire information was probably more current. By the way, supervisors did review the questionnaires, and so there was an opportunity for them to make sure that the jobs were being presented fairly. I also interviewed each of the department heads at some length to discuss their organizations, how the work was distributed, and talked about each of the jobs, what was expected of those, talked about organizational issues a little bit, any changes in technology coming down the pike, those sorts of things. And I asked department heads what kind of concerns they had about the current pay plan as well. So next we compiled salary survey data. Again, we were matching job duties, not job titles. So we compared the jobs as being performed with the city of Springfield to several sources of comparative wage data. Our firm conducts a pretty comprehensive statewide salary survey every 2 years. It actually includes some of the surrounding states. There are 165 jobs in the survey. It's a big survey. We had 59 cities and counties participate last time in 2014. Some of those were selected to be benchmark employers for the city of Springfield. We also solicited data from another, I'm going to say half dozen utilities and other cities that didn't participate in our original survey to augment our set of benchmark employers. If you look at the last page on your handout, these are the set of public sector benchmarks that we ended up with. 27, I believe, cities, counties, and public utilities. So from that data, we pulled for each job the median market rate from those benchmark employers. Most jobs in the city of Springfield, you're not only competing with the public sector, you're also competing with contractors, the banks, insurance agencies, retail, other employers in town. And so we usually feel it's important to look at private sector data as well for each job. And also we looked at some industry-specific data that were provided by some of the departments, the American Public Gas Association, Electric Utility. There's a utility survey that is pretty useful. And from those sources, we also pulled a market median, if you will. So for each job then, we determined a market rate, which is comprised of the average of the public sector number and the private sector number. Okay, so once we've done that, we compare to the city of Springfield. First of all, I mentioned we're going to compare to the pay scales. Now just keep in mind that your current city pay structure, if you will, is comprised of 26 pay grades. So jobs are assigned to one of 26 pay grades. Each pay grade has 10 annual, about 3.4% pay steps. So 26 grades, 10 steps for each grade. So my question is, where does this pay structure stack up to the market rates for all the jobs? And when we compare for each job grade, compare the steps for that job grade to the market rates for the jobs in that pay grade, what do we find? Well, we find that your step 10 pretty much matches the market rate for the jobs for the most part. Of course, it varies by job and by department, but overall, if you were to ask me which of the 10 steps most closely matches the market, the answer was step 10, which is your highest step. So, tells me that the steps are probably a little low. All right, next we compare actual employee salaries to market. And overall, as you mentioned on the bottom part of page 1 here, overall current city salaries, city employee salaries, are about 95% of market. And so the question is, well, what should it be? That's a hard question to answer. 95% overall isn't too bad. If you're a very long in the tooth employer with lots of senior employees, it'd probably be closer to 100. But in point of fact, you do have 103 employees with less than 5 years of experience in their job. So I would expect many of those to be paid a little bit less than the market rate for their position. Common employer practice is to hire people in little bit below the going rate for the job because, day one, those employees aren't too valuable. They don't know a lot about what's going on. It takes a while for them to figure things out. So the learning curve could be months. It could be, in some cases, as much as a couple of years, depending on the nature of the job. So by market rate, I should point out that that's the going rate for a typical employee in the position. So somebody probably with 7 to 9 years of experience in the job. That's the market rate we're talking about. So it's appropriate for some employees to be paid less than that if they have less tenure in their position. Likewise, it's usually appropriate for employers to pay more than the market rate for jobs for employees that have lots of seniority. In the marketplace, that could be as much as 115%, 120% of market. That's where most employers start to draw the line. So half the city's employees have salaries between 90 and 101% of market. But 25% of the employees have salaries below 90% of market, and unless those are recent hires, that's probably too low. Okay. So our recommendations. So first, the pay structure. In essence, what we're recommending is a 10, 11, 12, or 13 step pay structure, but grades 1 through 8 would have 10 steps, grades 14 and above would have 13 steps, grades 11 and above would have 12, grades 9 and 10 would have 11 steps. So we're adding a few steps for the higher level jobs, largely because people in those jobs tend to stay in those positions longer periods of time, and also to create a little more daylight between supervisory management salaries and the salaries of the people that they manage to create an appropriate supervisory differential. So what we're suggesting is that the old step 10 become step 5 of this 10-step structure. So steps 1, 2, 3, 4 would be below market. Step 5 would be essentially roughly the market, and then step 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. And in a couple of cases, or in some cases, more steps would be above market. This would seem to position your structure appropriately relative to the marketplace. One thing we try to look at is how long should it take an employee, new hire, no experience in the position, how long should it take them to progress to the market rate for the job? And the answer is usually 4 or 5 years. That seems to be an appropriate time frame. So if we set step 5 to nominally be the market rate, that seems to satisfy that condition. Now, not all jobs, most jobs, let me say this, most jobs stayed in the same pay grade they're in today. We did compare, of course, market data to the pay steps and the grades that the positions were assigned to currently. And in a few cases, we suggested jobs move up a grade or two, in a couple of cases even jobs move down a grade or two. Again, largely in response to making sure that step 5 matches the market rate for the job. But also there were in some cases, some internal considerations. There were some jobs that seemingly were higher than they should be compared to other jobs within the city of Springfield. Forget about the market data, just internal comparisons. So some jobs moved up a couple grades, some moved down a grade or two. In all cases, the new set of steps proposed are higher than the old set of steps, even with the jobs that moved down a grade or two. Their steps are still higher. On average, just looking at step 1, the proposed step 1s are $3.69 higher than the old step 1s on average. Some cases it's not quite as much, but on average $3.69. So we fixed the pay structure by setting step 5 equal to the market rate. All right, now, what do we do with employee salaries? If you look at most employees, well, let me start back. Point 1 here under B on page 2, there were 64 employees whose current pay rates fall below the proposed step 1. So we're recommending that those pay rates be adjusted to the step 1 immediately, or July 1st, whatever your implementation date would be. But that'd be the first thing to do, get those people to step 1. That seems fair. Those salaries below step 1 are markedly below market, even if they're new hires. Secondly, for all other employees, we're suggesting that their pay rate be adjusted to the proposed step that's closest to the current rate of pay, but not less. We're not cutting anybody's pay. So everybody would go to the step closest to the current rate of pay, but not less. Now, when we do that, for the most part, people are in essence moving a step, which is 3.4%. That's step 6. You had a lot of people that were topped out in the old step 10, so they're going to be able to go to a step 6, it's 3.4%. Anybody else that's below the old step 10 is going to move to a new step to 3.4%. Now, there's some folks, I should mention, the proposed steps above step 6, the new steps above step 6, are a little bit smaller. One fact that we can't lose sight of is that the marketplace right now, employers are projected to spend an increase of about 3%, all sources, COLA, merit, across the board, everything. Employers are expecting to expand about 3% of salaries in calendar year 2016. And I don't see that changing much for 2017. So steps that are 3.4%, again, I'm kind of looking out from the taxpayer standpoint here, are probably a little large compared to what's going on in the marketplace. So we're suggesting that the new steps, step 7 and 8 would be 2.5%, and steps 9 and above would be 2%. That would better align you with the marketplace and keep your cost of compensation more in line with what's going on with other employers. In some cases, when we assign a person's pay rate to the step closest to but not less, generally it was 3.4%, the regular step, but in some cases, if a job moved up or down a grade, it didn't equal 3.4%. In some cases, it was 2 cents an hour. So that didn't seem fair. So I'm suggesting that everybody should have an impact to pay of at least 3.4%. It's either going to come in the form of a pay rate adjustment to the step. If that doesn't equal 3.4%, we'll make up the balance in a one-time lump sum payment. Now, we're only going to do this once, the first year this plan is implemented. After that, everybody would move a step. But this first year, doesn't seem fair that somebody got 2 cents an hour out of this, and now somebody else might get $1.75, and it's by hook or crook where they ended up relative to these new proposed steps in some cases. So we're suggesting that this lump sum payment, making up the difference, would make things a little bit more equitable the first go-around here. All right, so the total salary adjustments are $471,000. Total lump sum payments for 65 employees are about $55,000. Total cost, $526,000 approximately. We're still working with management on some of this. There's likely that there might be some slight changes. I don't expect anything drastic. I met with department heads last week, reviewed everything, job assignments to pay grades, proposed pay adjustments, and everybody's pretty comfortable. There's a couple things we're working on, but it looks like this is, to me, a pretty solid number. So from here on, everybody would move one step. We're suggesting each July 1st. I know right now everybody's adjusted on their anniversary dates. We're suggesting that all salary adjustments be moved to a common date, July 1 each year, to facilitate budgeting and compensation planning. And if you ever did go into pay for performance, it would help things a lot to have a common review date. But it just makes things a lot easier in terms of budgeting especially. So there'll be some things that need to be done to kind of phase into that, but that's what we're proposing. Everybody from now on would move one step. Eventually, some people are going to reach that top step again. It's going to be a long time. We're suggesting the steps need to be adjusted every 2 or 3 years. The market continues to move. The market itself is moving maybe 2% a year, so we're suggesting employers every 2 or 3 years take a look at your pay structure, your steps, and if needed, adjust those to keep pace. Make sure that step 5 continues to track the market rates for the job, the cost of labor. But eventually, it's likely that somebody's going to reach that top step for their pay grade, and we're proposing that in those cases, in lieu of an additional step, because there is no more step to go to, that those people would be eligible for a 2% bonus each year. Maybe a lump sum is a better term. But the reasoning is to keep some skin in the game. I often get employers will say, well, Employees tell me, well, I'm topped out, I just, I don't need to work hard anymore. I just need to show up and kind of put in my time. I'm not going to get anything. It's not going to hurt me. No, what the heck? So let's put a little skin in the game, a little carrot out there. You got to pay attention, got to come to work, got to work hard, and you get that 2% lump sum in lieu of a step. So that's the reason we do that. I should mention that there may be some ways to implement this over a couple of years. I do a lot of these. About 70% of our work is city and county government. The financial impact to me, relatively speaking, doesn't seem that great. I often, sometimes this dollar figure is in the millions, and doing it over 2 years may make some sense. But if there were some need to cut some costs here, there may be some ways to reduce some of this. The 65 people who are below, 64 people who are below step one, some of those are getting some pretty big increases, and it may be appropriate to split those half this year, half next year, or half July 1st, half January 1st. Do something to mitigate the cost impact. All right, talk pretty fast. That's pretty much it. Any questions?
Steve, we appreciate it. Are there any questions from board members? Bruce, I'll start with you. Jeff?
No, sir.
James?
Okay, I love the cities that you use to compare the salaries with. So my main concern is retention and a fair market. So
yeah, those cities were chosen on the basis of proximity in terms of labor market competitors, and others are in there because they're better matches demographically. Population is a good proxy for the complexity of the police chief, the fire chief, the water department director, the parks and rec director. So it's appropriate to have some smaller cities in there that are a little bit more closer to Springfield in terms of demographics.
my main concern, and I'm gonna shut up, is Metro Nashville.
Yeah.
Because they're hungry and they're just eating up all of the surrounding cities.
Yeah, and y'all can't match that typically, but you can get closer.
Mr. Trotter?
Did you compare like police department to police department? Because we just hired 4 good new officers and we want to keep them.
Yes, Lord.
And so if they can get that top grade, a good comparable salary to the cities surrounding us, they may stay here.
Yeah.
So-
And I think this should help go a long ways towards doing that.
Ann?
And I appreciate you pointing out, too, that some of the people are topped out, and we need to do something for the ones that have been here a long time and have been loyal to the city. So thank you.
Right, so they will now have a step to go to, and I think that will eliminate that problem for the foreseeable future.
Sounds like this has been a very thorough look at this pay structure, and we couldn't do anything if we didn't have our employees. And they are the heart and soul of this operation, whether it's electric department or public works or fire or police or whomever. And we appreciate all that they do, and we have to stay competitive.
Yes.
In order to keep these dedicated and conscientious and talented employees. So thank you for your work, and we've got a roadmap now to work on.
All right.
Thank you very much. I'm still getting a little too much noise over in that back corner back there, and I don't want to have to give a report to the teacher since he happens to be my son, and it would behoove you to be quiet. All righty, 2.5. 3.5, excuse me. This is no action required on this or 3.6, this or 3.7. This is just to comply with a state regulation that we announced that we have certain public improvement bond series 2016 that we issued on March 22nd of this year. Also, a report that we had a lease purchase agreement on golf utility vehicle, a vehicle there, issued on March 1st of 2016, and a purchase agreement for some golf carts on March 1st, 2016. You want any information on those, that information is available. Now we have a presentation of the annual report from our police chief, David Thompson. I think we're going to need to move to the side to, you got a PowerPoint? Yes, sir. Okay. 2 minute break.
My computer's not working.
Yes, sir, that'd be great. All right, I'll try to be as brief as I can going through each slide. This is for the police department. Also, animal control's on the end of this, so we'll cover both of those things this evening. This is for 2015. The official stats came out, state stats came out yesterday as far as publicly, as far as the crime and what took place in the communities. We've been looking forward to this for some time. A couple of highlights from last year. Total calls for service, we answered 28,341 calls for service from the police department last year. That's either vehicles stopped or officers being dispatched to locations, various things such as that. Emergency response time was 1 minute and 46 seconds. That's from the time that a call is dispatched to a police officer to the time the police officer arrives on the scene. That's pretty outstanding. That's strictly, those are emergency calls, lights and sirens types of calls that they would respond to. Our clearance rate, that means basically how many crimes we cleared, how many crimes we solved. Essentially, we're almost 55%. That is unheard of. That is an incredibly high number. It's fortunate in a small community when everybody knows everybody, because when they're doing bad stuff, they keep doing it here until we get them. In other places, they do it and they keep moving. They're harder to catch, but clearance rate is extremely high. 55% is very impressive. We made 1,348 arrests last year. Those almost 6,000 tickets last year, citations, and worked 781 traffic crashes last year. That just kind of gives you a feel for some of the overall numbers that we're dealing with. By the way, this transition was not what I put on here. When I put the thumb drive in here, it started doing this, so that's new to me. It was a good year in a lot of ways. Guess what? We did not have any murders. Yay! I think I've been told that that's the second time in 20 years we've made it through a full year with no murders, so it was very good for that reason. Aggravated assaults, that's shootings, stabbings, beatings, and things like that, were reduced by 29% last year, so that's a pretty outstanding number. Violent crime went down, total violent crime went down by 17%. Overall crime rate went down by 17% last year, and our overall theft went down by 21%. So we're seeing numbers moving in the right direction. Crashes were reduced very slightly, 3%. We've got some work to do there. All this was accomplished. We were not fully staffed most of the time. There's been some transitions and retirements and things like that. We had an increase of 16% in our calls for service. And again, a lot of this was done sort of shorthanded, but it's been a good year. We've gotten a lot accomplished with a few people. Partnerships, I cannot emphasize enough how important our partnerships have been. The sheriff's office, we work with their people every single day. They assign people to our city and we work together on projects with them. The Attorney General's office is a major partner that we deal with day in and day out. Federal prosecutors, we took a lot of cases federal this year because we get longer sentences and they stay there longer. The federal prosecutors, ATF in particular, we work with other federal agencies too, but ATF is one we work with probably the most. State probation and parole, We've tapped into them, and this is just the beginning right here. There are lots of others, even Greenbrier, lots of other folks around us have participated in this. It's not just been Springfield Police Department, but our folks have coordinated and sort of been the catalyst to make these things go. So I think you met Madison Burnett previously. He did a presentation for you. He's been a major factor in making this work. Some other things going on. You take a look at this, burglary, theft, and auto theft over to the left. You get to see the total numbers. We'll show you some charts on that in just a minute. On the right side, as far as thefts, you see that shoplifting makes up a large portion of our theft. And in the past year, or past year and a half, we changed our policy on that. We put shoplifters in jail. We don't write them citations. We don't tell them when to show up in court. We put them in jail. And that, I think, has been part of what has driven those numbers, and we've seen some reductions there. That's a major part of our theft issue. As we look at calls for service, you see the increase over here on the right side, the increase going from 24,500 calls to 28,341. We got a lot busier and answered a lot more calls this year. The theft trend, you see there's a reduction this year, that's 730 to 577. A lot of that is shoplifting. That's, again, it's the difference when you start holding people accountable, so we've had some successes there. Aggravated assault, simple assault, and domestic assault. Aggravated assault, that's a serious one. That's one that results in serious bodily injury or death. Well, death it would be a murder. But serious bodily injury is an aggravated assault. A simple assault is a threat where somebody perhaps has been touched or pushed or shoved, but nothing too serious. Domestic involves both aggravated and simple assaults between family members or people who live together as a family. There's a long explanation there. But one of the things that we've seen here, especially in 2013, we have a lot more domestic assaults in this city, and it makes up a much more disproportionate share of our assaults than most of the cities in Tennessee. On average, about 50% of the assaults are domestic. In Springfield, we've hit 75% are domestic. So in the coming year, we're going to spend a lot more time dealing with assaults, and we're going to give that some special attention for domestic and for domestic assaults to see what we can do with those numbers. And by the way, we put them in jail too. Don't think for a minute that we're easy on that. We put those people in jail for domestic violence. You see murder, rape, and robbery between for the last 5 years. Of course, we'd love to zero down here in the right corner. That's our latest. It's right down here. 18 rapes, robberies 41. We had a group, we had a gang. These guys were affiliated. Some of them weren't officially a gang, but all these guys were tied together. Some of them were gangbangers. And they decided to start robbing Hispanics last year, and there were sometimes we had 2 or 3 robberies in a given weekend. Once we identified those guys, and we got those guys put in jail and put in prison, we got those guys off the street, the robbery cases went away, and now they're very sporadic. The last year was a high number, but we got the bad guys, our detectives, as well as our patrol officers, even administrative staff, even admin guys were out there doing stakeouts at midnight out on the road to catch these robbers. So we caught the bad guys, and now these numbers are back where they should be for this year. Vehicle theft, you saw a little bit of a trend, a little bit of an upswing right here. Is because we had one guy that was stealing cars. It took us a while to catch him. When you're a small community, one guy is a crime wave, and this guy apparently liked to steal cars from this location, go see his girlfriend, and dump a car. Then he would steal one over here from his girlfriend's and drive one back home, and it just got to be, we caught him, and now we're back to something more normal. Yeah, that really happens. Clearance rate, that goes, again, that's the cases that we're actually solving the cases. You see up here, 55%. This is an increase that we've had, but 55% is outstanding. I don't know of anybody in the country that wouldn't love to have a 55% clearance rate. A lot of that goes back to, again, investigations, supervisors following up with officers, patrol officers following up on cases. You don't accidentally get a 55% rate there. So we've got a lot of people working hard to make that work. Let's see, Narcotics Division, I'm just going to go through these quickly. 76.5 grams of cocaine seized, about $7,650 worth. That's crack cocaine. 4 kilos, about 8.8 pounds of powder cocaine worth about $167,000 were seized. 1.5 pounds of marijuana and about 234 hydroponic marijuana plants worth an estimated $771,500. 174 pounds of prescription narcotics were taken during the prescription drug take-backs. We did that in conjunction with the sheriff's office. 6 firearms were picked up. This is just narcotics alone. This is 2 guys that make these cases, essentially. Total currency seized $78,370 in joint operations with the 19th Task Force. Estimated total street value seized about $939,150. So our narcotics people stay busy in this community. We are seeing some transition. You're aware that heroin seems to be moving in this direction. We're starting to see heroin, seeing some transition in that direction. Some other things from narcotics. There are a total of 72 arrests credited to the Narcotics Division alone. They break down, we have 65 individuals in state court. We had another 7 we took to federal court with DEA and ATF, charged them in federal court to get longer sentences, and especially if they have violent crime histories. Adult arrests, you see a total of 1,348, and you see 1,064 of those were misdemeanor, 284 were felonies. When we look at this out in comparison to the past, there's some changes. Many arrests that were made in the past technically were arrests, but we weren't booking them in jail. We were basically citing them and releasing them on the scene. We've changed that equation, and we're putting people in jail now. So even though the arrest numbers look very similar, there are a lot more people showing up at the sheriff's office, at the jail over here. There are a lot more people going to jail than there have been in the past. Total citations, you see a total of 5,889 citations, some parking, some non-moving, you see the moving violations. We also started warning citations this year. We'll have a full report on those next year. We'll have those added next year. Next slide is motor vehicle crashes, 561 just property damage, 105 personal injury, no fatalities. Hit and run numbers still way too high. There's one this afternoon when I was getting ready to come over here. I heard a hit and run go out. Still way too high. We have a lot of hit and runs here. There's a lot of speculation, but we're working on those things. Our adult arrest and citations, you see down here, this is our latest and greatest for the last 5 years. We've got a total of 1,348 adult arrests and almost 6,000 citations. And those are all adults. We also have separate juvenile figures, but as you would expect, they're much lower. DUI arrests, this is, you see, 49 is the number of arrests without crashes, 29 actually involved in crashes. What this doesn't show you, there are a lot more DUI arrests than that, but when we bust people and they have drugs with them and they've committed other crimes, that's what they get charged with. Timers, who does the record keeping on this, does not recognize a DUI arrest, it's a drug arrest. So there were more DUI arrests than what you actually see on this pie chart. Crime rate, according to UCR, the required fields on the UCR, crime rate, you see a change here down to 480 per 100,000. That's much more competitive, that's much better than we've seen in the past. We're moving in the right direction as far as getting our crime rate down in Springfield. You see here, this is 2005 to 2015. I'm sorry you can't see from the back. What you'll see over at 10-year patterns is you'll see here that overall crime since 2005 has actually gone down 36% in 10 years. That's a pretty amazing number right there. I was very amazed with that until I looked at the violent crime. The violent crime you see over here has actually gone down 47% in the last 10 years. Very impressive numbers. We're moving in the right direction. And this graph right here shows you again, overall crime is up here at the top line. This is a property crime. This is violent crime. In all these cases, very significant decreases. So our reductions in crime are looking very good for the city. Comparisons, we still got work to do. When you look at our violent crime rate, you compare that with the U.S. rate. This is the U.S. rate. You see Tennessee usually is number 1 in the nation in violent crime. Last year we dropped to number 2, but I'm sure we can get back to number 1. Unfortunately, Tennessee typically is number 1 in the country in violent crime. This is the Springfield rate is still above that of Tennessee's rate, significantly higher. So we still have a lot of work to do. We still have a lot of assaults. We still have people with guns and bad guys, and we still got those things. We still got plenty of work to do, but we're moving in the right direction. Okay, before I entertain questions on that, let me just hit animal control real quick and some reminders. 2013, we made a lot of changes. We changed the city codes, we changed the city policies, and we changed the animal control personnel. All those things took place. Before 2013, we were frequently at capacity. Animals were being euthanized weekly. We averaged euthanizing 629 animals a year over a period of, I know, at least 5 years. That's what we averaged. Animal control was the disposal system for unwanted animals. 19 animals a year were being adopted by rescues. That's how much we were using rescues. Okay, report this year. We had a total, you see, the 2014, 2015, slight decline. Totally we took in 469 animals this year. We adopted out 205 animals this year. We returned 57 animals to owners this year. That's more than doubled last year. A lot of this is being done with volunteers and being done with social media. My daughter actually runs the Facebook page for the Animal Control Division, and I can't tell you how many hits in the last week. They've had over 12,000 hits on that site just in the last week. They posted one photo that had 400,000 hits on it. So the social media is really helping us finding the right homes and finding places that take our animals. Fees collected, these are in the thousands. We collected a little over $10,000 this year. We euthanized a total of 23 animals this year. So from 629, last year was 13, this year is 23. And the ones being euthanized today are either vicious, they bite, or they're sick. So we're not euthanizing animals just to dispose of them. We're doing it when they're vicious or when they're ill. Official complaints and calls. We got officially 280 complaints. That is not phone calls. We get phone calls all day long when people are asking for advice. This is where we actually send people out and we actually help them solve a problem. Lost and found, we picked up 72 this past year. Dog bites are down from 19 to 10, and referrals to the county is still about 10 or 11. That's usually where we stay there. So that's what's going on there. Presently, the overflow shelter is under construction. We appreciate Public Works. Euthanasia has become a last resort used for ill or aggressive animals. Social media and partnerships have greatly increased the preservation of lives. So what are we doing? We're replacing the fencing, concrete, adding shelters, the overflow shelters right now. We're adding drainage, concrete channels to eliminate waste and improve sanitation. We're going to replace dog houses. We're addressing HVAC and lighting inside the facility. And if we have the funding to complete this, we're going to do some security, address some security issues because people steal dogs out of these shelters if we don't have security. And needs. The biggest needs we have right now is professional, functional office space for employees and volunteers. We do have people who want to volunteer, but honestly, when they walk into that facility, getting them to come back is not an easy task. The facilities there still need a lot of work as far as just being professional, quality facilities. And space for adopted parents and animals to interact, that's part of the same things, part of the same need. So that is where we are, animal control and police. That concludes my presentation. Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. For the 17 to 18-year-olds here, the simple assault and the domestic assault can be high when you have a relationship problem, male and female, and that does affect the scholarship. And at will, at 18, kicked up to adult court. You have to really watch your anger. And on the dogs, we got signs on the greenways like the muzzle and leash on. So Jason can tell you we're doing a pretty good job out there.
Very good. Any other questions?
Also, I'd like to take on the accident thing. I talked to some of my coworkers, former coworkers. They say there's a nationwide trend on accident increases, basically due to handheld devices, which is texting and talking on the phone, which a lot of it goes actually unreported as that, but that's actually the cause. So it's
they are right on target with that. I usually refer to that as people that are simply too busy to drive.
Right.
And whether it's texting or whether it's emails or all the various things we're doing on our devices today, we're getting the two single most common causes we're getting are backing, especially backing out of parking spaces and that sort of thing, and the other one is distracted driving. They're just too busy to drive a car. Let me tell you something, when you got thousands of pounds of glass and steel and lives at stake, you need to put your phone away. So we're very much in favor of that.
Chief Thompson, I want to thank you for that excellent report, which is showing some very good policing throughout the city, and I appreciate very much are we at 40 or 41? If we're fully staffed, we've got 41 officers.
Last week, for one day, we were fully staffed because we had that person actually leave employment the following day. We were fully staffed. We're actually at 40 right now.
Okay, so
We have one position open right now, and we have 3 retirements in May.
Okay.
And,
We've got to hire a few more.
Yes, we do. And it's just for the record, you know, everybody here understands this. I'm not the one doing the work out here. The men and women doing the work out here at midnight and weekends and the ones doing all this stuff, it's not me sitting back in an office, it's these other folks to get the real work
And
done.
we appreciate the support that we get from the neighbors that report on things that they see, and it's very important that we support you and your officers in all that they do. Let's give them a good round of applause. All right, yes, sir.
Chief Johnson, I was behind you when you made that arrest coming to the meeting, so I thank you for that. The guy that made an infraction in the truck and you pulled him over, I thank you for it. He was on the case.
All the time. All righty. 3.9 is to consider and possibly act on a request to fund the electrical improvements for the former Conwood Tobacco Building to accommodate the new industry that's locating there, and which is by the name of Stony Creek Colors Incorporated. The County Industrial Board's good and Chamber have done a good job in bringing this project to reality, and we appreciate that. And we've been asked to do what we can do in this. Paul, you want to add anything to that?
Well, thank you, Mayor. Of course, this is a big advantage to the city, and you have a report, my memo, addressing this concern. Essentially, annually, the Industrial Development Board gives the city an amount of money. Generally, we budgeted this year $56,000. It can only be expended for industrial or economic development and tourism. This particular, my recommendation on this is that the board go through and contribute to the internal electrical work that needs to be done at the Conwood building, utilizing $22,000 that we already have in the Industrial Development Fund. And then we've got some surpluses, good surpluses in local option sales tax and state sales tax. And suggest that we contribute some of those surpluses to this particular project. If we get more money from the Roberts County Economic Development Board above what we had budgeted, that any surplus be used to offset the use of local option sales tax. So the amount of money required for the internal work is $58,500. The electric department, as a matter of policy, will be doing some work on the outside of the building to replace that antiquated system. So my recommendation is to contribute in the amount of $58,500.
All right, is there a motion this be acted upon to that effect? Move for approval. Second?
Second.
Any discussion?
Mr. Mayor,
Yes.
I need to state for the record that I am on the Robertson County Industrial Board.
All right, thank you for that disclaimer. Any other discussion?
Yes,
Could we
ma'am.
state for the record
Mr.
how many
Sneed?
jobs coming?
Beg pardon?
The number of jobs.
There are 50 jobs, I think, associated with this project.
Maybe as many as 100 within 5 years.
Mr. Sneed?
Yes,
Mayor, I looked at the financial assets of the Industrial Development Board, and their total net position ending in 2015, they had $750,000 in their net position with $426,000 in cash. Can the city manager explain why we're being asked to give $50,000 to a group that has $426,000 cash?
Mr. Sneed, but you also know that we have received X number of dollars, what was it, 56,000?
But the question is to Mr. Nutting, to answer the question of why do we need to give $50,000 to a group that has $426,000?
I'll be glad to, because it benefits the city of Springfield and benefits everybody who lives in Springfield. They've got to cover the entire county. You know, we'd be sitting with 2 empty warehouses that 10 years from now, or if not sooner, we'd be knocking down. They've already knocked down 1 building on the campus, which is exactly what we've been doing to try to improve the appearance of the city. You're producing jobs. I mean, what is not to like? And they're giving you the money every year to contribute to economic development projects here in Springfield. I see no reason why not to do it.
By law, we receive these dollars from the Industrial Development Board coming from hotel motel taxes, and we are required to spend it on economic development. I can't think of a better one than to facilitate this project for the jobs, 50 jobs that it's going to generate. That's the answer. Now, Mr. Trotter?
And I personally think it's a great investment for Ward, which I represent, Ward 2. And that it'll create jobs for people who sometimes don't have cars, but who could possibly walk to work.
That's right.
And I've seen, I'm not name calling Mr. Blackwood, he's put a lot of time in over there, and I know he's probably not getting paid. But I think it's a great investment for the city, and you know, in a small amount to pay.
Any other comment?
I got one. I got a question.
Bruce?
Roger, I'm assuming this building, once it was transferred to the county or to the industrial board, came off the tax rolls.
That is correct.
Does the portion that this company leases go back on the tax rolls, or does it stay off?
The portion that they're leasing will go back on the rolls. As over a 4-year period, they will quadruple or more the space that they're using, and we hope for them to have the entire building. We also possibly have the other building sold, which would put it totally back on the board, which would increase the taxes back to where they were to begin with, plus we would have the other 80,000 square foot building free and clear. We feel like it's a win-win. We're projecting they were projecting 101 jobs in the next 4 to 5 years, and we're trying to create something in that neighborhood. You're talking about, Clay, how much money we have. We're spending over $400,000 on that building to make this happen, and we desperately need this money. We're also getting some grant money from the state of Tennessee.
All right.
And
are there other
project.
comments?
Yes, sir, Mr. Mayor.
Go ahead.
The state of Tennessee Economic Development's been in here, made the announcement that Stony Creek is coming. It's been great publicity for Springfield and Robertson County, and I fully support this.
Thank you. Any other before we vote?
Yes, Mayor.
Ms. Sneed, do you have another
Ms. Snyder, aren't you the Secretary Treasurer of the Industrial Development Board?
I'm a board member. I'm not
She
the
has
treasurer.
already made that disclaimer.
I'm saying I need to know what's the current balance.
She is not the Secretary
I thought
Treasurer.
she was the treasurer.
I'm the former
If
treasurer.
you spent $400,000, I mean, is that depleted the reserve that I just mentioned?
Yes, we are depleting that weekly. We're spending all kinds of money trying to make this project work. And we may end up having to borrow money to make this thing happen.
All right. Are there other questions?
I would like to also add that this money is coming from all over Robertson County, and it's all being spent in the city of Springfield.
One more question, Mayor.
All right.
If the property is sold, you're the owner, you would sell, if sometime in the future you sell this, most of the time there's some kind of stipulation, if a property is sold that we put money into, we might get some of that back.
If the property is sold, first thing we do is recoup all the money that we have spent. The second thing is we split whatever the excess is with the county commission. They received the property and asked us to manage when we said, no, we'll take ownership. We took ownership with the conditions that however it came out, we would split the resources.
Pretty well looks like a win-win. We've got a motion and a second.
Ready for the vote.
Question's been called. If you favor this, vote aye. If you oppose, vote no.
Cornell?
Aye.
Gregg?
Aye.
Sneed?
Aye.
Trotter?
Aye.
Head?
Yes.
Hubbard?
Aye.
Passed 6-0.
And in a related issue, in 3.10, discuss and possibly take action on the acceptance
Miss
of
Katie,
proposals
I want to vote on that.
speculative buildings in the North Industrial Park.
She told me I could vote.
Yeah, she can vote.
I thought you had to,
No.
I
Now,
just
she
have to say for the
announces
record.
that, but she can
Okay.
vote, she can vote.
so I need to go back.
You just ask her.
Snyder? Passed 7-0.
We go 6 plus 1. Now, there we go. All right, Paul, you want to outline this?
Okay. We've, the chamber has been approached about the city being open to speculative buildings in the North Industrial Park. And, you know, Mayor, when you were with the chamber, we've done this before.
Over and over again.
And we, the last time we talked about this, maybe 12 years ago, the board had no problem with speculative buildings, but they thought that it ought to be open to anyone who wanted to do this, and that we would listen to the proposals instead of just work with one developer that a number of people preferred, just give everybody an opportunity to make proposals and then accept proposals. It could be one proposal, two proposals, three proposals that would work for the city. So what I've got, just for your review, and you don't necessarily have to vote on anything tonight, but this is proposals for speculative buildings in the North Industrial Park. If you would look at that, and then we need to decide if we want to make any, if we want to do that, that you agree with these policies or any, or, you know, discuss what changes need to be made. And then, of course, once those bid specs or proposal specifications were authorized by the board, then we would go ahead and publish a notice in our official newspaper to accept proposals.
All right, would it be in order if we studied that until the next meeting, and is there any objection to that? No. Let's look that over and be ready for a vote to authorize that at the next meeting if there's no objection. All right, sounds great. 3.11, discuss and possibly act on a parade application of covenant confirmers on June 4th to benefit to raise money for the Tennessee Biker Medical Clinic. That group does an awful lot of good work for those who are in need. Is there a motion to approve
I
that?
move.
We got a second?
Second.
All right, any discussion?
It helps the indigent people of our city greatly.
That's what I understand. They got national coverage on
Definitely.
at one point on TV for that, and it was a good reflection on Springfield as well. We have a motion, and we have a second. Any discussion? Call the roll.
Head?
Yes.
Cornell?
Aye.
Trotter?
Aye.
Snyder?
Aye.
Gregg?
Aye.
Hubbard?
Aye.
Sneed?
Aye.
Passed 7-0.
3.12 is to discuss and possibly act to approve the Tennessee Department of Transportation State Industrial Access application by Electrolux. Is there a motion?
So move.
And a second?
Second.
Any discussion now? Paul?
Mayor, the board authorized a resolution to make an application at the last meeting, and there was a discussion about whether they would ask for a pilot agreement. And so the application has been changed. They are going to ask for a pilot. If the board approves the submittal of the application tonight, we'll get that signed and into the state tomorrow.
All right, anything further?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
In watching Electrolux for the past 10 years, I'm seeing a very favorable improvement toward employees and toward being a good manufacturing partner for us. We're pleased with their moving.
All right, anything further? Please call the roll on this application.
Trotter,
Aye.
Hubbard,
Aye.
Head,
Yes.
Snyder.
Aye.
Sneed. Gregg.
Aye.
Cornell.
Aye.
Pass 7-0.
Want to point out that the Tennessean did in a Sunday edition about 3 weeks ago, was showing a developmental section there of all the positive things going on in Middle Tennessee. And one of the things that was listed was the 10 largest employers. And that you'd be interested to note that Electrolux was the number 7th largest employer in the counties that in Davidson and all of the surrounding counties. So it's a pretty significant, and it was one of only 2 manufacturers that were the largest employers. Of those 10, the largest was Vanderbilt University and Hospital for UUT fans. I wanted you to note that. There were several others, Cracker Barrel, Kroger, things that you would not think of. You generally think only of manufacturing. But there were 2 manufacturers. Nissan was one of them, and Electrolux was the other in the top 10. So that's real interesting. 313 is to discuss and act on the acquisition of 4 remaining easements which must be secured for the relocation of water and sewer lines in conjunction with the construction of the Highway 431 South project. Motion?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Any discussion now? Call the roll.
Sneed.
Aye.
Cornell.
Aye.
Hubbard.
Aye.
Gregg.
Aye.
Head.
Yes.
Snyder.
Aye.
Trotter.
Aye.
Pass 7-0.
All righty, and 314 is to discuss and possibly act on a proposal from Clark and Associates Architects to begin preliminary planning for the renovation of the collection and finance area of City Hall, the fee being $9,500. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Second.
Mayor,
Discussion, yes, sir?
the total cost of the renovations that are being proposed or planned, if I'm correct, is it 20,000?
Well, the budget includes 20,000, and really, you're going to have to make some major modifications to the building structure. So rather than spend the 20,000 on just things that really weren't going to, in the long term, result in really good improvements for the city hall as a whole, we thought it might be best to spend a little money with an architect and look at the structure of the building and see what can be done, and come up with about 3 different proposals for the modification and budget the actual modifications based on the recommendations from the architect.
So that's why the architect's fee would seem large, considering the size of what was the original project. Is that what you're saying?
It sounds large at any measure. I mean, that's a lot of architect money there for just renovating that lobby. I mean, I don't know how many architects y'all have hired, but that sounds pretty high.
Say specific.
All right, that's noted. Any other comments on this?
It's a long time coming for this specific project. Okay?
I mean, they can set their price. I mean,
All right, anything further? Call the roll, please.
Cornell.
Aye.
Snyder.
Aye.
Hubbard.
Aye.
Trotter. Sneed.
no.
Gregg.
Aye.
Head.
Yes.
Pass 6-1.
All right. I will get to you in a minute, Mr. Lemaster, but I'm going to go on with the docket, but we're voting on that. Let's go to the consent portion. Do I have a motion? So moved.
315 about the
Oh, no,
senior.
I missed something. Excuse me.
senior.
I missed the senior citizen.
Yes, sir.
All right, let's get that one, then we'll go to the consent docket. Paul, you want to present that, or someone else do it?
Well, I'd be happy to, Mayor. This was presented to me last week. Actually, I verified today with Beth Feltz of the Senior Center that although the location of these services are in the Senior Citizen Center, it's for Meals on Wheels. They have a specific building behind the center that belongs to the center, but is shared by Meals on Wheels. So I believe Patricia from Meals on Wheels is here, and she'll explain the need for the flooring. That's all
You
right.
come forward, please, ma'am. We welcome you to our meeting.
Thank you. The problem we have is in the back that we do housing for homebound seniors and congregate meals also. The flooring back there is terrible. Well, we had a water leak, we had that big ice storm before, and it's carpet back there, and so it damaged the floor. The flooring back there is in real bad shape. And so Mr. Brown had talked to me about it. He had been over and saw it, and so he said he was going to try to help me to get some funds to get it fixed, to get a flooring put back there.
All right, so the estimate on that is $2,699, or right at a
that.
dollar being
Right there.
$2,700.
Right.
And are you asking that amount from the city?
Yes,
All right.
if they can do it.
All right, thank you, ma'am. All right, you have it. We need a motion now on this.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Now, any discussion?
Yes.
Go ahead, sir.
I want to thank you for the quality service. I have 5 seniors around me on Rose Hill,
Okay?
and I'm definitely standing up for them, okay?
Thank you so much.
All right.
Yes, Mayor, we might approach the county on some funding with this as well, sharing in the cost.
Okay.
That was really the intent.
All right. All right, you've got a motion before you to authorize the spending of up to $2,699, $2,699. Is there a second to? All right.
Ready to vote.
Let's call the roll.
Snyder?
Aye.
Cornell?
Aye.
Gregg? Sneed? Trotter?
Aye.
Head?
Yes.
Hubbard?
Aye.
Now, let's do the consent docket. Is there a motion?
Motion to put it all together.
Second? Now call the roll, please.
Hubbard?
Aye.
Sneed?
Aye.
Cornell?
Aye.
Trotter?
Aye.
Snyder?
Aye.
Head?
Yes.
Gregg?
Aye.
Pass 7-0.
All right, Mr. Masters, will you give us a quick overview of our sewer progress?
Contract 3A and 3B are ongoing. Contract 2A and 2B are about to wind up. Most of the work has been done in the southern part of Springfield and the eastern part, so we're continuing moving on. We will have a pre-construction conference on Contract 4, which would be on the 28th, so if y'all want to sit on a rousing pre-construction conference, you're invited to attend.
All right, thank you. Paul, do you have anything further?
No, Mayor, thank you.
All right, thank you so much, and we'll see you next month.
Okay.
I have